Good afternoon. This is Diane Harmon and Lucas Smith and Tracy Gaines, and we're here for Thursday's roundtable. So I hope y'all are having a great week. It's Thursday, one more day until the weekend, so we're so excited. We have a couple of subjects to talk to you about today, and we hope that you find this information informational, that you can put it in your processes and think about some things that happen in the real estate world. And you can always reach out to me anytime to further discuss this, either Tracy or Luke or one, to just to ask some questions. If you just want some basic questions about real estate, you can reach us here directly at the office at 850-471-5029. So let's get started. So the one thing that I have a question is, I just want to ask, I recently had a house and I had 5 offers on my house. And so what happened is it was a USDA. So what are your thoughts? And I'm just going to ask a question, because I always thought that a USDA, I know it's a rural development loan, I know that you can roll your down payment into the loan. So that's really good. It's sort of like VA. You don't have to have that upfront 3 or 3.5%. You can actually roll it into your loan. But I always thought that USDA was a FHA loan. I found out that it's a conventional loan.
It has more characteristics of an FHA loan because they do require mortgage insurance.
They do.
For the full term.
They do. And the other thing that I found out too is when I call the lender to ask the lender this, the appraiser uses FHA guidelines.
They do.
Yeah. And so, and here's what come up for me. Because they were doing a USDA loan, in my mind told me that this is a FHA loan. So I wanted to add to, in order to protect the seller, because anytime that you have an FHA or a VA, there's that $90 tax service fee that has to be paid. The VA, the veteran, or FHA cannot pay it. So I was ready to add that FHA addendum because I thought the FHA guidelines would attach. I was told by the lender that no, it's a conventional loan. It doesn't, but yet when that appraiser appraises it, they're going to use FHA guidelines.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, it depends on the lender and what circumstance they deem most appropriate for the client or for the borrower. Because you can, just like SHIP funds, you don't have to use a FHA with SHIP. You can do conventional 3% down,
right,
or 10% down. So I think that applies to USDA as well. So the majority of the time,
right,
it is an FHA product, but in this instance,
right,
they wanted to have the option to be able to drop the mortgage insurance after they hit the 20%
right,
equity in the properties. But if I'm not mistaken, the majority of the time, I agree, it's an FHA product.
Yeah, well, if you've got a buyer, it's a little bit different, because then you can get with the lender to find that information out. But from a selling side of it, if I have a seller and I have a listing, I need to make sure that if I've got a letter from the lender that says it's USDA, I need to know if they're using it FHA wise, because if so, that $90 tax service fee is going to apply. Now, if for some reason that buyer, and on this particular case, that buyer had their own closing costs, okay? They were doing that, they weren't asking the seller for any closing costs. So let's just say normally I would say, hey, Mr. and Ms. Seller, the buyer's asking for $5,000 in closing costs. We're gonna roll that, if there is any FHA tax service fee, we're gonna roll and lump that in to include in that $5,000 and not in addition to. But in this case, there was no closing cost. Right. So I wanted to fine line it down for my sellers. I didn't want it at the end of the day, even though it's only $90, to come up and say, oh, well, I didn't put $90 on your net sheet because I didn't know. So that's where I'm coming from on that end of it. Yeah. So I called the lender and I was just surprised to find that they were doing it conventional. And I didn't know that. So anyway, that's good information. You can always talk to your lender about that. So if you're going FHA, if you're going USDA, so you're saying that you can go conventional and put some money down, correct? Yeah. Or you can do FHA and roll your 3 or 3.5% into the loan. Yep. Kind of like a VA.
Because it's customary on a USDA loan, just like FHA, because it traditionally is a FHA product, that you cannot drop the mortgage insurance.
Right.
You have to carry it for the full term of the loan or until you pay it off.
Right.
So the advantage of going with the conventional is
it drops off.
Yeah, it drops off once you hit it.
Do you know if you're doing that, so let's just talk about that for a second. So if you're doing that and you're doing it conventional, now do you have to have some money to put down, or can you still roll that into the USDA loan?
I don't know if USDA guidelines will allow it, but there are places that will do a second mortgage for the 3%.
Right.
That you would have to put down. Like Supreme Lending has 100% financing right now on a conventional product.
Right.
97% for the first mortgage, and then the closing cost and 3% for the second mortgage. So you can actually close on a loan with zero money out of your pocket, just like basically a VA loan.
Right.
But they're actually adding the closing cost into it too.
I've never heard that.
I haven't either.
I've never heard about being able to roll your closing cost in.
I mean, I wouldn't advise it.
Is it on a conventional, is that just
It's
a conventional product?
conventional
Yeah,
product.
so if you're watching this, you can always reach out, again, always talk to your lender, and that's gonna lead us right into the next, set of questions that Luker has, that it's not really a set of questions, but it's just some information that Luker wants to pass along. And keep in mind, y'all can always reach out to our office. We're the Harmon Murphy Group at Keller Williams Realty. Our base office is here at 911 Gulf Breeze Parkway, in Gulf Breeze, just before you go across the bridge to Pensacola Beach. So you can come out and visit us. We can go next door and have some tacos at Taco Rock, and you can find out some really good information. So let's talk about the items that you have, Luker.
It kind of goes in directly to proving my point as far as the information that you just said.
Exactly.
A local lender gave you that information. It's very unorthodox. I think it's important that we utilize local vendors that we have relationships with, specifically the ones who think out of the box.
Right.
Because every transaction's not the same. It's not your run-of-the-mill thing. So it's hard for me to think as a client because I've never experienced this portion of this before on the other end. But why would anyone choose a big box lender like Wells Fargo or Chase or Citibank or
Bank of America,
or Navy Federal over a local vendor who your agent has a relationship with? I know you work with a local lender, and specifically for that reason, because she's good at what she does. She can do it quick. And so what my question is, what makes you trust or feel like someone else is more capable that's not the local lender, one of the big
I
box?
think it's just that people think, well, Bank of America is a huge bank. I think they think of Wells Fargo as they're a huge bank. They've been around forever, and that is true. But do they always have the product that's going to best suit your needs? So, and this is a really good point to talk about. I want you to talk about at this point right now, Luker. I want you to talk about the experience that you had with this one individual that was buying a home. Tell us that story.
Which one?
With the one individual that's using.
Okay, so we just went on our contract a week ago. Her home inspection's already been done. She calls me 2 nights ago and says she's really worried. She just got her shipping estimate from DC to here, and could I get approval from the HOA to park a pod storage container in the driveway for 3 weeks, which we could not. It's a gated community and they don't allow it. So it's going to cost her an additional $7,000 to store her stuff for 3 weeks until we could close. So the only solution I could come up with is to close early. And so I called the lender, I called the title company, and didn't really ask. I just said we needed to close on August 9th so the kids could start school on August 12th and they could be in the house. And there was no questions asked. They made the accommodations. They started ordering title work immediately. The lender already has everything fully approved from underwriting. We're actually ready to close next week if we wanted to. So it's just, could you have that done with a VA loan at any other big box lender? No, you could not.
Right.
That's not possible at all. So they make exceptions. They work extra hard. They work overtime for us because of our relationships with them.
They don't clock out at 5 o'clock and be done.
You can call them on weekends. So it's not necessarily, I think a lot of people think that we get kickbacks from these people.
Right, and we don't.
Or they send
We
us
wish.
they send us business. And sometimes they do personally, but
Not often.
it's not often that we get business from a lender. We send them a whole lot more business than they send us.
Right.
But it's that they're willing to make exceptions. They're willing to work overtime for us, and that's what's important. And you're the one that benefits from that, not us.
Exactly.
The interest rates are better. They're willing to make things happen that nobody else would normally even
Talk
look
about
into.
that, about her origination fees with the other lender. Talk
Okay.
about that.
She came in to sign the contract, her and her husband did, and they sat down and I was looking over her fee sheet from a lender in Georgia, and the interest rate, or the APR was 3.32, and really good rate, but it was just a fee estimate. So I had her send over an actual loan estimate, and when it started breaking it down, they had 1% origination fee, there was a $2,195 underwriting fee, and there's all these extra charges in here, and so her closing costs were going to wind up being about $5,000 more than what it was with a local lender. So we sent that fee estimate over to the local lender, and they were actually able to match the interest rate, and they charged her a flat $695 underwriting fee.
Right,
No origination points,
no $2,100,
no
none of that.
$2,100, no nothing. So their closing costs
Yeah.
are basically gonna be a wash because of the seller's concessions.
Right.
So they're gonna go to closing with a down payment, that's
Right.
it.
Well, and that's what happens is until you see it, if you're a buyer, you're not used to buying homes every day. Some people have bought 3 or 4, especially our military families
And
have
most
bought
people
3, 4.
forget when they
And
get to the next one.
They forget, and maybe they bought 10 houses, but they forget, and so they don't really see that breakdown of that fee sheet. Well, once we as an agent see that breakdown, we realize that you've got these points or this origination fee and all these other fees that we know that local lenders don't have. So it's so important to find a good realtor that's gonna be able to help you with this, because so many realtors would just say, oh, well, I'm sorry, you can't move in, and I don't know what to tell you, and they don't allow pod, so, oh, well, I just guess you're just gonna spend $105 at base housing until you can close.
And $7,000 for storage.
Yeah,
Storage,
yeah, and so
Blows my
you've
mind.
gotta really have somebody that's helping you and somebody that's willing to help you, and that's what we try to do. I know there's other realtors in town that try to do that. We're not dogging anybody, we're just saying that if you really wanna be protected, we're here to protect you 100%, so I think that's all good information. The other thing that I wanna talk about too is there's so many lenders that, and we're not talking about any particular lender, but there's so many lenders, they have certain platforms that they have to do. Some of these local lenders, they don't have the same kind of platforms, they don't have the same hoops to jump through that some of the larger lenders do, because you take Wells Fargo or Bank of America, the large entities, they have a certain set of platforms, and that's what you've gotta do. You may have a local lender that doesn't have any of those platforms. And so the process is just a whole lot, it's easier, it's quicker, it's smoother, and if anybody needs to talk to that lender, guess what, they're here, we can go knock on their door
Yeah.
if we need to.
Everything's a case-by-case basis
Mhm.
of what that particular borrower needs from that
Right.
loan. And if they need something else, then they can figure it out, work it in the numbers to make it work.
Right,
As far as, like you said, with big box, they pretty much have certain guidelines of this is what you have to have for this loan and to get this amount, and that's it. If you don't qualify, you
You're done.
just don't.
yeah,
So local lenders can make the exceptions and, like Luger said, look outside the box to make it work.
Right.
We wanna help you.
right. I just recently had a house, I just wanna touch on this, cause it kind of falls in line, just as from a standpoint of a realtor, of some of the things challenges that we have to try to make things work for people. I have a house that's been listed, it was listed for about 6 months, we had a couple offers on this Tall Ship, I know you're very familiar with Tall Ship. And so what happened is, when I went on that listing appointment, I had numbers that substantiated and upheld the price that we priced it at $197. So what happened, it was about 6 months, we went under contract, it was a VA buyer, was asking for some closing costs. So we went under contract at full price. Well, when all of a sudden I heard that the appraisal come back and the home didn't appraise. Well, normally in the real estate world, if a home does not appraise, you hear from the lender and they call it a tidewater, meaning that they're gonna give us as realtors the option to send in some comps to substantiate the price and uphold the price that we had the house listed at. We never got that opportunity. The bank never contacted our office, the bank never contacted me. All of a sudden, all we know is the appraisal was done, it come in $14,000 low. It come in at 183, and it come in and I was never given the opportunity to be able to send them comp. So I immediately got on the phone, called the bank didn't have any reason why, they didn't notify us. So I was told that I could challenge that and appeal it, which I certainly did. So we appealed that, and the comps were sent in. I still had numbers to uphold that price at $199, but I'm gonna tell you, once that appraisal goes in and it's in that VA portal, there's almost nothing that you can do to fix that. And of course, my sellers were devastated that it was $14,000 less than what they thought they were gonna get. So if you're 80 years old and you're thinking about moving now, you're at the point like, I don't know if I'm gonna move or not. So I made the appeal. The VA senior officer come back and said, well, see if the sellers would consider 193.7. Called the sellers and they said, absolutely, we'll do 193.7, because now we're only talking about $4,000 difference. That was day before yesterday. This morning I get it, and now the senior VA come back and said, oh, well, we'll only do 188. Well, why in the world did you ever tell me you would do 193.7?
Yeah.
Now you've set these people up, these 80-year-old people up for just more hurt. So I was able to talk with them. They were just in up in arms. They didn't know what to do. They were pretty much deciding that they were gonna stay here. And so what I said to them is, let's do an addendum and let's ask if the buyer's willing to pay $192. It's a question. All we can do is ask. I said, and here's the thing, and I'm just being real. You're in your 80s, and if you decide to stay and you're already packed up, your family's already got the house prepared for where you're going to, and now are you going to stay another 2 or 3 years? Your health goes down. You're not as healthy as you were. The market may shift. It may go up or it may go down. And now you're here when you've got this opportunity and a contract. This young lady that's buying it has already turned in her lease notice. She's already paid for all of her inspections, her appraisal. She has nowhere to go. So I just need you to think about it. So we did an addendum for $192. For all intents and purposes, it's been agreed to verbally. It's not signed and back yet, but it looks like that, we did get that up from $183 to $188. And then if we can settle on $192, at least we've met somewhere in the middle. So, it's just a conversation, just to think about, because we're so quick to just say, well, I'm not doing it, I'm not selling it, and then be regretful for what you did, especially when you're 80, 81, 82 years old. So anyway, it's always just good information to have those real, true to life conversations with people, just to let it sink in and resonate exactly where am I and what am I doing. So I hope that we're going to get them closed here in the next 15 days, and they're going to be headed to another state where their children and grandchildren are, and then this young lady that's a veteran is going to be able to move in that house. So
and this is why you have, again, goes back to the local vendors.
Mm-hmm.
If we had a personal relationship with that lender would have called us and told us that the appraisal came in 14,000 below, and that she already immediately challenged it. There's not a whole lot you can do when it's VA because it goes through an independent third-party
Mm-hmm.
appraiser, unlike a conventional or
Right.
a Fannie or Freddie
Right.
product. But it's, again,
local lenders and
relationships matter.
And I am so up in arms about that whole bank, and it's a local bank, but it's not somebody we know. And we were never notified, and I have had many Tidewaters come in. I've always sent in my comps on that, and they've always appraised. But I was told by that VA appraiser, who I won't mention his name, who I know very well, because we're not supposed to be reaching out and calling the appraiser, but I was so aggravated that they did not give us the opportunity to challenge that. And once that is loaded in that VA portal, it's almost not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
We did get a small change. It wasn't very much, but at least it was $5,000, which is better than nothing. But still, and once this is all said and done, and this is closed, I'm gonna go to that local bank, and I'm gonna meet with that manager and talk to them about because we're not blaming anybody, but somewhere there was a failure to communicate. Mm-hmm. And it's very hurtful to both parties, not only a buyer, but to a seller too. So it's huge when you know somebody and you can pick up the phone and say, hey, Kim or Janie or Chris or whoever it is, we've got an issue, and they help us resolve it.
And on the flip side of it, this is why you hire an agent.
Yes.
Could you imagine doing this yourself?
No.
And it's important that both parties are represented, because if the agent who is representing the buyer is as good as the seller's representation was, she can go to her and say, hey, here's the situation. We had a unfortunate experience with the VA appraiser. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get another appraiser out here which will recognize the comps.
Right.
The house is in perfect condition. There's not a speck of dust on the baseboards. There's not a smudge on the wall. It looks like a kid's never even stepped foot in this house. I thought it would have appraised for more than 197. So if somebody could explain that to the buyer, I think,
Right.
it's just important on all ends of the spectrum
It
that
is.
you have good representation.
And those new comps that I did that they were sending to the VA, it still had 3 homes in that same neighborhood within the last 6 months that still put it at 197 to 198. But yet that appraiser chose 2 or 3 other homes outside of that neighborhood that were at way less dollar per square foot. So I don't know, it's real estate business. We all do the very best that we can do just so that everybody can get from point A to point B and sell your house or buy the home that you've always dreamed of having. So do you have anything else? Do you want to talk about some local lenders besides lenders, like local people, like, whether it's a lawn person or a home inspector or anything like that, or any kind of vendor?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the complete package. And I think it was, I think it was you that I was telling the other day how important it is that I have a conversation with clients ever before we even sign the contract that do you have a local vendor that you want to use for your home inspection
Right.
or your WDO or any type of independent roof inspection or something like that, that if you don't, I would like to choose one for you that applies best to your transaction. If we have a lot of money in repairs, I want a really picky inspector. Because I want to try to get as much fixed on this house as we possibly can with the money that's promised us in the contract. Or if we don't have a lot of money and the house is in good shape, I want somebody that's not going to make it look like the house is falling down.
Right.
So we want to check for structural things and safety things and then move on. So those are things that really matter as far as negotiating a deal that can make or break a deal too.
Absolutely. And I know our team has got a long list of vendors that's been working with us, been working with me for over 13 years. I really appreciate everything that they do for us. They do a great job. They work really hard, and I can count on them. And sometimes, and I got a text message the other day from one of my listings, and she was a little aggravated. The photographer was an hour late. I don't control that photographer's schedule, but they should have maybe picked up a phone call and called us, because sometimes people have to arrange not only for their work schedule, but for their children and their pets and just different scenarios. My contractor was supposed to be there at 8. He called or texted and said he couldn't make it till noon. So now that threw the whole schedule off. So sometimes those schedules do get changed, but overall I have a handful of people that I know are really good, that I can count on, that I know does a great job, that doesn't eat every penny up that you've got. And I really don't have a pool bigger than that. Yeah. So we just have to talk with them about their time scheduling and time frames like that. I've already set up a system with my listing assistant today to make sure that if you're listing your home and you've got 3 dogs and 4 children and you've got a work schedule and maybe you've got a husband that's sleeping during the day, whatever that schedule looks like, we're going to find that out up front so that we can make sure that these contractors are very mindful of their time. So just little things like that. But again, that pool of good independent contractors is hard to find. Yeah. It's hard to find good help.
And on the buying side, on the listing side, we want contractors to come in before to make it as most presentable and approachable to buyers as possible. And on the buying side, everything's done afterwards.
Right.
So there are.
People need gutters and things like that. We're like, hey, I need this.
I have a great gutter guy. Put gutters on my house, and he did a fabulous job. Very respectful, very good at what they did. And so when I find somebody good like that, I put them on my list and I put a star by them. And and they're called the gutter guys, and they do a fabulous job. I've got painters, I've got flooring people. You've got a ton of people in your pipeline just because of the kind of work you were in before you got in real estate.
I had some clients that closed about a month and a half ago, and she called and she said, we're not coming back from Birmingham until we get everything done on the house. And she said, please send me anybody that you know that can do these things. So I sent her a name and a number for each person. No choices, just call this one person and that's it. And she called every single one of them. She used every single one of them. She had gutters put on the whole house. She had the back porch screened in. She had a privacy put up around the perimeter of the property. She had the whole house painted. She had a termite bond done. It was a laundry list of stuff. She probably spent $40,000 after she bought the house. But it's completely moving ready, and they're going to retire there. They're going to live there for the rest of their life. And that was easy for her. I was able to help coordinate it with her, and she never even had to meet these people. And she trusted us and them enough to do it without, checking the work and make sure the quality was good.
Yeah, that's always great. It's great to do that. Tracy, do you have anything?
One thing that I've been dealing with a lot lately, well, not a lot, just with one particular customer, but his mom unfortunately passed away, and she owned 3 homes. And he lives in California. He was only able to come in town for a week or 2, just pretty much get things going with the lawyer, but he can't really be in town to handle anything with the other houses. One of the houses had a tenant in it, and he's not able to be here to get the house rekeyed, check the house for when the tenant moved out, so I helped him out with doing everything. So it's nice that, as realtors, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you out, make things, better in, unfortunate situations, obviously, that, we can be that person of contact to help you. I helped him get, 8 locks out there to rekey. They've always just been really quick to, you can call them day of and typically get an appointment.
Right.
And I'm able to, just help them out with that. And that's the, point of us, of we're here not to be salespeople, but to educate you and just help you out in the process and make just things smoother.
Yeah.
And for him, it's very stressful with 3 different houses, not knowing what's going on, dealing
Not
with
being in
lawyers,
Pensacola.
dealing with, not being in Pensacola,
Yeah.
living in California. So, completely different time zones on the opposite side of the country.
Yeah.
And it's just, these are things that we do that a lot of people don't even realize that, that's what we're here for. We want to make things smoother for you.
Right.
If there's something just a little like that we can do as far as helping you out when you're not in town, or
Right.
with vendors, lenders, things like that.
I think
We're
you're
a whole wealth
you're
of knowledge.
underestimating what you do for people, because that specific situation, it was not just little things on that. So
Yeah.
people don't realize that. From when they look from the outside, they think, oh, she does all these little things for people.
Right.
But for people who don't know about that situation, there are some fraudulent quitclaim deeds, and Tracy's able to find them out, avoid from going to probate. They're already hitting the market. This should have taken at least 12 months to get settled, and she did it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's huge. It not only saved him a lot of money, a lot of stress from coming in town and going to court. And,
Yeah, it's big. We do that so much. In fact, Tracy mentioned that she's got a client in California. I have one now in California. Same situation. The house had been a rental. 2 clients. One is up north. One's in California. They're totally at the opposite ends of the spectrums. Both of them. One not a spouse, but a parent had died and is deceased. He inherited this house, never been here, never saw it, so it was my eyes, my videos, my FaceTime, my contractors, my cleaner, my yard people. It was all these people that come together to make this house. The house actually hit the market this morning. The house looks great. So we had another one on Cobblestone that was the same situation. He was in California. We had to get the tenants out, get it cleaned up, get the yard done, the house painted, new flooring put in it, and the house went under contract with multiple offers in the first 2 days. So a lot goes on behind the scenes, and so we're not just your typical real estate agents. We're we're a little bit of everything. We have a huge concierge service that goes on behind the scenes. So
and that's the benefit of having a team. And us just even talking to each other, that we can bounce things off of each other and mastermind together and find out the best way to handle different situations.
Right.
Every single transaction is different.
everyone,
I can't, less than 5, I can count on my hand of like a smooth transaction of like, this never happens. There's always something that pops up that you have to figure out.
Yeah.
And we gotta think outside the box and figure out, hey, have you been in a similar situation? And with the benefit of being on a team, we can handle all those situations with our local vendors and things like that.
Yeah, we have a lot that is maybe going into probate or coming out of probate. Maybe a relative dies, somebody inherits the house. They really don't even know that it has to go through probate. They think that because they're on their Aunt Josie's will that they get the house. Well, that house has to go to probate. So there's so many different scenarios. We actually help people walk them through that. We send them to our local title companies that we work very closely with. I've got one right now that has a $500,000 judgment, and it's attached to this house. We're trying to figure out if we can get one of those people that's got that judgment to let this home be sold. There's so many things that go into the real estate. It's not just about buying and selling a house. You've almost got to be an attorney, and we're not. You've got to be an accountant, and we're not. You've got to be a probate trial person, and we're not. We're just simple people trying to help people. And anyway, we hope that you have found this information good today. Tune in every Thursday. We're going to have this roundtable. So if there's anything that you want us to highlight on or talk about, you can always call our office directly at 850-471-5029. Thanks to Tracy and Luker. Y'all have a great Thursday.
Have a good one.